Welcome to Bennetts BikeSocial. We're here in Tenerife, the lovely sunny island that's not been so sunny today, to ride Triumph's new Trident. This is an entirely new model for 2021. If you were getting into motorcycling, or maybe coming back to motorcycling after a bit of a layoff, or alternatively you was looking at a second bike to put in your garage that you could use for everyday use, you had a choice of 3 Japanese alternatives. But now there's a new kid on the block. Welcome to Triumph's new Trident, their entry-level model to put people into the British Triumph brand. It's price competitive, it's leading in technology with usable power, easy to manage. So let's start with the engine. 3-cylinder, 660 capacity, slightly based on the Street Triple S, but it's got over 60 new components, different bore, different stroke, different cam, different crank, different fueling and different exhaust. So it is quite different really. You're looking around 80 horsepower quoted for peak power and really usable torque. Over 90% of the torque starts at 3,600 and goes through past 9,000 RPM. Showa forks up front, non-adjustable. Showa rear shock with preload adjustment, and this is a direct shock with no linkage. Quality Michelin tyres. Nissan brakes up front, and we've got full connectivity TFT clocks with 2 rider modes. You've got rain mode and you've got a road mode. The modes change the traction control and the power characteristics. The traction control and the ABS are conventional. By that, they use algorithms with wheel speed, throttle position and gear. There's no IMU in this bike, so it doesn't know how far it is over. Some people might think that's a discompliment to this bike, that it doesn't have an IMU, but that's on par with the competition. We have to compare this bike to the competition, and that is the Z650, the Yamaha MT-07 and Honda's CB650R. So when we compare it to that competition, it's greater power than the Yamaha and the Kawasaki. It's got lots and lots of torque, more than the Honda. It's lighter than the Honda and a little bit heavier than the twin cylinder bikes. So it's right in the ballpark. Price wise, it's a little bit more, but arguably this is a new model for 2021 and it's got more tech with the rider modes and the TFT and the Bluetooth connectivity. So what are we talking with figures? Well, the key thing is the price. So that's 7,195 in the UK. That puts it slightly above the Kawasaki, about on par with the Honda. And we don't know the price of the MT-07 for 2021 yet, but it'll be around the same price. So we've had 2 days here in Tenerife, which has been beautiful conditions. Well, at times. We've encountered rain, we've encountered fog, we've even encountered a little bit of ice this morning, it was so cold. So we are out here in Tenerife, in the volcanic regions, and you can see the cloud is pretty thick. The roads are dryish, and this is Triumph's new Trident. It's new for 2021. 90 brake horsepower, multiple rider modes, completely new bike for this year. Let's give it a spin. So I'm just going to join the group and give you a rundown of the new bike. As you can tell, and it is really, well, it's not foggy, this is actual cloud because we're at a couple of thousand feet. So just got to be a little bit cautious because the vision is not brilliant. But Triumph have given us heated grips. So there it is on the left bar there. That's an optional extra. The throttle delivery in the first kind of 10%, if this is fly-by-wire, but if it was cable, I'd want to change it a little bit because it feels like there's a bit of throttle lag. It's not throttle lag, it's just really, really soft. So it makes it user-friendly, which is great for new riders. And then once you get a bit higher up,
it makes more of a growl, and it feels more responsive. You know, and it sounds really good. I don't know if the mic's picking it up, but it's a triple engine that's Euro 5, and in Triumph usual style, it sounds absolutely awesome. I'm really impressed by it. The gearbox is super smooth, clutch is one finger light, the brake here is span adjustable. The suspension, even though it's non-adjustable, you don't need to adjust it. It's doing really well out of the box. If you had a pillion and some luggage, you might want to play with a preload. But aside from that, I'm really happy with it. I mean, this is a £7,000 bike, so I'm not expecting multi-adjustable suspension. Another important factor is the service intervals are huge. So it's 10,000 miles for the first major service, which in this category is market leading. And Triumph have also cleverly made sure that the workshop hours are less when you take the bike for a service. So even though it's 719 something, so just under 7.2, it is slightly more than the competition. The running costs should be slightly less because it will cost less to service and the service intervals are longer. In terms of MPG, around 60 MPG. I think it's 60.1 or something like that. And as you can see, the conditions have been tricky all day, to be fair, but the Michelins have worked pretty well. The ABS is really good. It's not too intrusive. I mean, we're heavy on the brakes at times, and you can sometimes feel the back pedal actuate a few times, but the front, I've not felt it kick in yet, and we've not been hanging about. So yeah, styling, it's ticking boxes, sound, it's got character, it's got engine performance, it's just so fluid and smooth and nice. It's really nice and easy to throw around.
So what's my verdict, what's my view of the motorcycle? I'm impressed with the engine. The first turn of the throttle is really soft and fluffy, really usable, really friendly. When you start to rev it, it sounds really good, it sounds like a triple, and it's more fun for a more experienced rider like myself. It's really enjoyable to ride. The show suspension front and back is quality. This isn't a budget bike with budget suspension. They haven't scrimped cost when it comes to suspension. Everything is composed and it has a nice feel to it. It's not two springs just bouncing around randomly at either end. It's nice and composed. The only reason I'd want to change the preload is when I add maybe a pillion and some luggage. The braking is really strong, nice and progressive, nice feeling to it. The seat height is 810 millimeters and it's really slim at the tank, which means even for me at 172 centimeters or just under 5'7", I'm flat-footed on both sides. I've had 2 days of riding this bike and I've really enjoyed it. Sometimes when you ride the entry-level bikes, they're a little bit boring and after a couple of days you're kind of fed up with it. But I've really enjoyed this. If this was a second bike for an experienced rider, I'd highly recommend it. I really like the styling, I like the maturity of it, I like the Britishness of it, and I really like the soundtrack of the triple engine. I'm struggling to find faults with this bike when I compare it to the competition. Sure enough, it's lacking Brembo and it's lacking an IMU, a multi-adjustable suspension. But when you compare it to the competition, which is very similar to this spec, it's really impressive. It steers lovely, the ground clearance is ample, it's nice and balanced around town at low speed, the ABS is not intrusive, the switchgear is simple and easy to use. If you want, you can get the Bluetooth connectivity. As a first ride of this motorcycle after 2 days, I'm impressed. I think this is going to climb up the sales charts for Triumph, but the biggest test of this bike is when it goes against the competition, who are all bringing out new models for 2021. You ready? 3, 2, 1.
So let's start recording, Dom. Record, 3, 2, 1.